Let's begin this motherfucker. Let's talk about all the bullshit that's out there. Now, I hate to break it to you kids, but what they tell you is not the entire truth. And take it from me, because I've had to learn this the hard way. Trial and error. Now, some would think that I'm smarter than average. Well, I'm not so sure about that. Maybe I was just placed in circumstances which forced me to develop what intelligence I had inherited from my parents. I can't really say. I know that my family, in general, are pretty intelligent. I can't call them geniuses, but they're pretty intelligent. So I guess I've inherited some of that. So I'm not gonna try to act smart or anything. I'm just gonna tell you what I've learned over 47 odd years. And this will be my first installment. Now, some of this shit is gonna trouble some of you. It's gonna hurt you. It's gonna insult you. It's gonna make you feel bad. The first reaction to this will be this desire to reject it, to push it away, to explain it away by simply calling me names, rejecting me on the basis of some psychoanalysis bullshit. You might accuse me of fear, of weakness, of stupidity. Doesn't really matter. How you react to my perceptions is your issue. I can only tell you what I've learned over the years. And I can only do it in the most honest and direct way that I can. What you do with this information is your business. You could throw it in the garbage. You can tell yourself I'm some idiot, some moron who's afraid of the world and has come up with this stuff. Fear is actually the favorite method of dismissing something. In fact, fear underlies every conception, every human conception. And many people fail to realize this. So while they cast aspersions upon others, they fail to realize that their own conceptions, their own beliefs, their own ideals are based on fear. Because fear is the mother of all emotions. Let us begin with this crap about equality. Well, most of you perhaps have already guessed that I don't believe in equality, and I don't think any of you should. Of course, you're free to do whatever you want, if it pleases you. You are free to believe in Santa Claus if that pleases you. That doesn't concern me. If you ask me what my opinion is, then equality is a concept based on the absolutes. The way something can be the same as something else is if it is static, if it is absolute. And if you've listened to my other videos, then you already know my positions on the absolute. Therefore, if there is no absolute, how can there be similarity? How can there be equality? Not even a twin, not even a clone will be equal to the source. And this is for the best. I cannot imagine of a better world than this, where nothing is ever the same as it was, and nothing is the same as another. Therefore, when we speak of similarities, we speak of an ambiguity based on a generalization, simplification. In most cases, and this is ironic, it is based on a very superficial appreciation of appearances. For instance, two twins are considered to be the same, exactly the same, simply because they look the same, and an individual with another appears to be the same, so he is considered to be exactly or absolutely the same. In fact, if there's no absolute, then we can never speak of an absolute similarity. We can only speak about a potential based on an average, based on a past, because the past is the only thing which is immutable. We cannot change the past. The past is changeless. The past is creative because it defines us, it determines us. When we speak of God, we speak of an anthropomorphic entity which simply represents the concept of the past. Spinoza, of course, turned this into the immanent, God being the immanent. Okay, so let's begin this bullshit adventure with the first and foremost bullshit: mythology. Many of you have been seduced by the notion of equality, and I'm not even talking about institutional equality. You know, the idea that we're all equal under the law, but the idea that we're all equal or the same in nature. Now, this is the first and the foremost and the most dominant bullshit idea which is being used to seduce imbeciles and retards and weaklings and cowards, perhaps like you. Now, the other bullshit idea, which is also very comforting, perhaps to an equal extent to the previous, the idea that we are all capable or possible or able to do the same shit. Now, within social context, perhaps this is true, because within social context, the mediocre is appreciated, excused. You don't need to be a genius to become a doctor. You need a above average intelligence, that's for sure, but you don't need to be a genius. And I've met doctors, and trust me, they are nowhere close to being geniuses. You don't need to be a genius to be a scientist. All you need to do is follow the prescriptions, the rules, the methods. You don't even need to be a genius to be a cook. You don't need to invent a new recipe. All you have to do is follow the old recipe and perhaps maybe tweak it. And consider yourself a genius because you've tweaked it, because you've added a little bit of paprika, or if you've added a little bit of cumin, or maybe you were very daring and you added some cannelle. You don't need to be a genius to finish school. All you have to do is follow the text, learn it, understand it, pass some tests proving that you've understood it, while accepting the underlying premises, the underlying myths, the underlying predispositions, the underlying assumptions as being self-evident. So when you pass a test, what you're really passing is a test upon how well you took to the underlying ethos of the culture. Out of this bullshit mixture, this salsa, this recipe of crap, we come to this idea that you can be anything you want. In fact, you cannot be anything you want. You cannot be a bird. You cannot be a cow, although you can think like one. You cannot be a fish. What you could be is a social construct. What you could be is a human social construct, since there all you require is to be mediocre. You don't require to be much above the average to become a scientist or engineer or a doctor or whatever, or plumber. All you need is to have the monetary comfort to spend the time necessary to absorb the teaching, the indoctrination, the underlying ethos, the underlying bullshit, the self-evident underlying reality, which you will then use in your daily functions. You don't need to be a genius or a philosopher to teach philosophy, to become a teacher of philosophy. All you need to do is to memorize, regurgitate, repeat, parrot, verbatim. The more you can do so, the more you seem to be intelligent, when in fact none of it is based on your perceptions. It is simply based on your memorization and your adherence to the status quo. If you repeat a recipe, a cooking recipe, let's say, perfectly, are you doing anything creative? Not really. The only thing you're displaying is an exceptional, above average memorization of the recipe itself, and a profound adherence to the recipe without wanting to go over it, without wanting to add a pinch, a gram more than the recipe requires. So you could be a genius and be totally enslaved within the system. This is why being intelligent is not enough. Being intelligent is just the one ingredient, it's just the beginning. It's just one prerequisite to being free. In fact, modern systems are geared, they're made to incorporate mediocrity within their functions, within their institutions. So one would not expect that you require much more than the average intellect to participate, to be included, to be accepted, to function. Of course, this is different than to excel. It's different to be a scientist who simply goes through the motions and repeats the prerequisites and follows the rules and does his job. And it's a different thing to break the rules, to go beyond them, to stretch them, to challenge them. This is why it's easy to create an institutional educational system which produces automatons that simply repeat their functions. Lawyers, it's take precedent and apply it. That simply think within the boundaries of justice. They never question justice. They think within the boundaries of it. individuals that cannot escape the boundaries of their focus, of their institutionalization, of their training, of their careers. So you get all these career people that are successful within the criteria of society, and yet cannot think beyond these criteria, and they would not dare to, and they would not want to, since they've dedicated so much time and effort in acquiring the credentials which prove that they can think within the criteria, and therefore why would they challenge the validity of this designation of these criteria? They would not. This would be like eradicating, dismissing, slandering their entire past. This would be like saying that their entire lives are based on a lie. And of course, they would never do this. Well, this is the basis, the foundation of the crap that we're living in. And on this level, you can easily dismiss me as being a coward, a loser, quote unquote, a person who has failed and therefore is making excuses. I mean, you can find all kinds of justifications to dismiss me, and that's fine with me. I really don't care. In later segments, we will get into the details. In this segment, we just touched upon some of the foundations, some of the base of modern thinking. I forgot to mention the idea that we can all be anything we wish. Now that's one of the most popular ones. We teach our children to think that the only thing that prevents them from becoming something is dedication. It has nothing to do with their inheritance. This is a comforting thing for the parent and for society. This idea that when a child is born, it can be anything it wants if it is nurtured correctly. Emphasis on the term correctly. That it can be what it wishes to be if it applies itself. Now this is somewhat true, since within the social context, if you apply yourself, you could become anything you wish, just as long as you can settle for becoming a mediocre version of it. You can become even a teacher of philosophy and still remain a total retard. All you have to do is just repeat what other people have said. That's your job. You have to pass on information that other people have provided for you. This does not require much intelligence. In fact, this requires an average intelligence. So, if you really apply yourself, even if you have an average intelligence, even slightly below average intelligence, you can teach philosophy, because you don't really need to present your own views of reality. All you have to do is present other people's views on reality. Neither do you require a genius mind to teach art, since you don't really need to be an artist to teach art. All you require is to know art, to regurgitate it, to repeat it, to know all the schools, to be able to mention all the names, all the dates, all the schools of thought, all the styles, and then pass them on. You don't need to be an artist to teach art, no more than you need to be a thinker to teach thought. or to be a philosopher to teach philosophy, or to be intelligent to teach knowledge, or to pass on intelligence and knowledge. This ends segment 1. Ta-ta.